Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day. Hello. I'm not sure when you're listening to this, but you are listening to the Portsmouth Proud podcast. I'm your host, E. Washington, the Public Information Officer for the Portsmouth Police Department. We serve a community that's not too far from the ocean, not too far from the bay, right on the river. And we are producing this police podcast for you so you know what's happening in your city. You know the plan, and you know how you can be a part of it.
This is episode 16 of the Portsmouth Proud podcast, and today we are going to have a wonderful discussion with Detective Jeffrey Barber. He is with our Special Investigations Unit. Welcome, Detective Barber.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Before we get started, I always like to start off by getting a little bit of background information. So can you tell us, where are you from?
From everywhere.
From everywhere? Okay.
Military brat.
Okay.
Moved around a bunch.
Okay.
So I lived in New York, Hawaii, Northern California.
Ooh, Hawaii.
Yeah, Oahu. Northern California, Petaluma, it's near San Francisco.
Okay.
Chesapeake, Virginia, and Twin Palms, California. It's the middle of the desert. Any military folks will understand that.
So would you consider California home?
No.
Where would you consider home?
No, I left California to come here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Virginia's home.
So Virginia is home. Okay. And so what inspired you to become a police officer?
Well, a few things. There was an incident that my dad would take extra duty when he was in the Coast Guard. He would do like policing and stuff like that on the base too, just extra duty stuff. And there was an incident that happened where unfortunately one of our neighbors had abused their daughter, and she passed, and Dad had to respond and make the arrest and stuff, and it was really sad. Little girl's name was Asia. I only saw her one time, and we helped her. My brother and I helped her play on the playground, and then like 2 days later, that happened. And I was just thinking how awful,
Yeah.
to such a sweet little girl, and so that kind of sticks with you. I was waiting tables in Southern California, and my buddy Eric, he was waiting tables with me, and he was putting himself through the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department process, and then he became a cop, and then he would come in and he would talk with me and tell me stories and stuff. He's like, man, you'd be a great cop, and at the time I wanted to be an architect.
Okay. Okay.
And I was, I'd gone to college for a little bit for that, and I realized I don't want to do this. I don't want to sit behind a desk. It was boring working on a CADS program,
Right.
computer-aided drafting and
Yeah.
design
Yeah.
program. So boring. And then so I stopped doing that, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do. So when he would come in and talk with me, I'm like, yeah, you know what? I think maybe that's something I want to do, and that's kind of what got me more interested, like kind of pushed me over the line.
Okay. So your dad was a police officer in the Coast Guard?
No, you would just pick up extra duty and assist. Like he would do like the policing duties and stuff.
Okay.
Like hey, it's your turn to do like the MP duties and stuff. But he was actually he was a telephone technician, a TT.
Oh, okay.
That
Okay.
was his designation.
Okay. And so you were inspired, I guess, as a young child, interested in policing, and that kind of fell away to become an architect, and then over time realizing, hey, I don't want to be at a desk. I want to be out among the people. Decided to pursue a career in law enforcement. So where did you begin your career in law enforcement?
So I started looking in California,
Okay.
and Arnold Schwarzenegger was our governor at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, the governor, and I started checking all the departments and stuff there. And then we went into a hiring freeze for law enforcement positions because our former governor, they had to balance the budget and everything. So it's like, hey, let's put a freeze on all these positions until we start balancing stuff. So I'm like, well, hold on, I kind of want to strike while the iron's hot.
Okay.
So since I lived in Chesapeake, my buddy, who's now a Suffolk fire captain, I believe he just got promoted, he's like, hey, man, 757's hiring. Why don't you apply out here? So I applied to Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, and Portsmouth.
Okay.
Because he had said, hey, I hear Portsmouth's always hiring, and I hear 3 years there is worth 5 to 7 anywhere else.
Okay.
And you're going to get into stuff. I said, sure. So I applied Portsmouth. They picked me up, and I flew out here 3 times from California for the various testing. So I flew out for the written test and the physical agility, and there was like 300 people there for back in 2008 for this process.
Oh, okay, okay.
And
So there wasn't an online test at this time.
no,
Okay.
no. So I could print out the application, I could fill out the application, but flew out here for the testing and the physical agility. And I flew back again for the oral board and the polygraph and stuff. And I flew out again for the doctor's physical, the whole checkup. Then they wanted me to fly out again just to have my TB test read, and I was like, no, 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 they'll just get it read there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you started this process in 2008.
Yes.
Okay.
2007, 2008.
Okay. And then when did you go to the police academy?
It was the fall of 2008, October, I believe. If it wasn't, it was probably November 1st. Actually, is when I started the academy.
Okay.
Because I did like a little bit of pre-academy stuff, got my khakis and everything, and then we went. Like my wife and I, we got 2 weeks notice from the department, like, hey, you've been hired. Your academy starts on this date. And I said, cool. I already switched to a month to month with my apartment. And so we packed up everything and we drove across country 3.5 days in a 2002 Ford Escort. And yeah, it was quite the journey. Me, her, the dog, and a couple housemates.
In the Escort?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'm really good at packing. And
Okay, yeah, you have to be. I had an Escort. That was my first car I bought for myself.
Oh yeah.
A red ZX Escort.
Yeah, my
Yes.
little silver 2002 Ford Escort. And it got great gas mileage.
Yes, yes, yes. That's have the dog in there. That's a lot going across country.
She was a little dog.
Okay, okay.
Cosette, she was a little dog. She was a Jack Russell Terrier.
Okay, okay. That's not too bad. Well, so that's exciting. So you went 2 weeks notice, got to pick up, move across country. I'm to Chesapeake. Now, you had been here before, but had your wife been here before?
We live in the beach.
Huh?
We live in the beach, but we drove from or we were living in Rancho Cucamonga, California. Drove from there to my dad's house in Twin Palms. Then went to Las Vegas to go say goodbye to her sister, and then we just drove. In 3.5 days, we got here.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, now you are currently a detective, and off the podcast, you've talked about all the different duties that you have. Can you give us like a list of the different areas in which you worked in the police department?
Okay, so like everybody else, start off in uniform patrol.
Mm-hmm.
Around 2013, I think, myself and a couple others were selected to do a burglary task force because of the spike in burglaries and property crimes and stuff. And so I did that for a little bit, and then we ended up getting part of the strike team, which was almost like you got beat officers, and then you got the strike team officers that would just float around and be proactive and stuff, unless it was not manpower. Manpower wasn't properly staffed, so then we would fill in there and work beats and stuff. But now I got to do the proactive stuff. Then 2016, I got selected to be part of the street crimes unit.
Okay.
And that was drugs, guns, and gang members. That's all we did.
Okay.
Just a bunch of the proactive guys, would just go out there and arrest people. And then, let's see, then 2021, I think. 2020, 2021, ended up going to fugitive apprehension unit for a little bit before getting placed in narcotics.
Okay, so you became a detective in what year?
2020 or 2021.
Okay, so
street crimes started off underneath uniform patrols. We were officers at the time.
Got it.
And then we started, because of the cases and stuff we were doing, we realized, hey, there's more investigative. So then we got moved underneath investigations. So that's what switched us to detectives. And then, I think it was around 2020 when they actually.
So what is the process for an officer? You're in uniform patrol. Is there testing that you have to take some type of exam to become a detective? What is that process going from a uniform patrol officer to being a detective?
So there is a process when there's an opening up, and whether it's investigations, special investigations, which narcotics falls underneath, fugitive apprehension. There's a process. You have to send a cover letter. You have to send your performance eval. There is a oral board that you have to answer certain questions.
Okay.
And
Okay.
yeah, so there is a full-on process that you have to do.
Okay. So there's the oral board is an exam that there is it a panel that
Yeah,
you
three individuals there
Okay.
that are selected to ask you certain questions.
Okay. And how are these questions about the job that you are wanting that you're pursuing, or
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column
Okay.
B. So
Okay.
some general policing questions, but also about the position that you're going for.
Okay. So you just listed pretty much most of the areas that I've seen. I'm learning new things every day, so it's possible that you didn't. But what was that? Can you remember or tell us like how your training was? Did you feel prepared when you came? Because you came from California and you did the police academy. How was that training?
At the academy,
Yeah,
or
at the academy.
the academy it's basic law enforcement knowledge. I actually took it very seriously because I upped my family, my wife,
Right.
my dog at the time. But we moved here for the job. So
Right.
I had the mindset of I'm coming here for this job. I can't fail this job. You know, I looked at the academy like I'm getting paid to work out and learn. And
Well, you look at it like that.
yeah, and so I'm going to take it seriously.
Right,
This is
right.
my job, is to learn and work out. So that's what I did.
Okay.
I made flashcards, case law, all that stuff. I had my wife quizzing me constantly on it. And so I graduated with the second highest score in the class. The guy that beat me had been a police officer somewhere else.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll give you that one. So the training for there, but it was basic. It's, a basic blanket knowledge, and you don't realize how basic that is until you actually hit the street.
That's what I was going to ask you.
And you hit the street and you realize, I don't know anything. You forget how to drive a car when you become a cop.
Okay.
It's the first time, like, I've, driving since I was 15 years old. And as soon as you, like, sit behind the wheel of a cop car, now you're all of a sudden, you forget that there's stop signs, or you've got a turn signal that you still have to use because you're worried about the radio, you're worried about the emergency lights, you're
Right.
worried about your FTO.
Right.
It's just funny how it's not just me. Everybody forgets how to drive a car when you become a cop, and so it's just so much more that you realize that this job is.
Right.
So training, I mean, I stayed up on case law. That is probably like the biggest thing.
Okay.
Is stay up on case law. I ended up getting an app on my BlackBerry phone I had at the time.
Oh, okay.
It was called US Cop. And, but yeah, like I would just sit there and I would just look at case law and learn what you can do, what you can't do.
Right. Lieutenant Holly, I interviewed her a few weeks back, and she had mentioned about the importance of case law and how her initial not understanding how attorneys were coming to their conclusions about cases led her to go and get a degree, her master's in law, because she was so interested in case law. So you mentioned case law and how you have to stay up on that. Do you still do that now, or is that more so when you were a newer officer?
Yeah,
That's
very
what
much.
you do
Yeah.
right now.
Well, we just got out of our legals training, but
That's
like
true.
a lot of that stuff, you can just find it on the website. So FLETC has really good stuff. You can do. I've got a new app because they stopped updating the US Cop app back in 2014. So there's this one called Alpha Cop that has more relevant case file and case law stuff. So I mean, got it on my phone now. I can just pull it up and like, hey, do I have a question about like Miranda or search and seizure laws, more newer laws that came out and case examples.
So you said that, and I'm understanding the examples that you just mentioned. But why is it important for an officer to study case law? Why? How? Because you're trained on how to question or interview or interrogate people, trained how to arrest them. Why is knowing the case law important?
Well, just because you've made a cake doesn't mean you can make all the cakes in the world.
Okay.
Just because you've learned one thing doesn't mean you can do it right every single time.
Okay.
And with the case law, there's so much minutia that you have to look at. It's the difference between a confession getting admitted into a murder trial and a confession being thrown out just because you didn't understand, like when the guy said, I don't want to talk to you anymore. That's him invoking his right to remain silent versus, hey, can we take a break for a second? Then okay, we're just taking a break, and he's not.
And those details get updated all the time.
Yeah, and that's with the cases that go forward and move to the appellate.
Okay.
All that. So, I mean, really, there are certain things that are black and white, and then there are certain things that are in the gray. And the gray is what's defined in the case law. So if you can understand the legality behind why you're doing something, like, then number one, our primary function is to uphold the Constitution, and we can't step on somebody's constitutional rights. And so if there's case law saying, no, you can't do that because it's unconstitutional, then you're not doing your duty because you're going against that.
Right.
But number two is to get the best case possible, knowing the law, and it builds your confidence as an officer.
Okay.
The biggest thing, like with newer officers and trainees and stuff, is if you don't know it, then you're going to be apprehensive. If you don't, right or wrong, make a decision. Not making a decision is the biggest issue that I come across. I was an FTO for over 10 years, had over 40 rookies in my car, and the biggest thing that they would do is if they would stand there and not make a decision, it's because they didn't know what to do. That means they didn't study, they don't know their case law, and they don't know what their abilities as a police officer are.
Got it. So as a police officer, because, most of us are learning about police work through TV.
Oh, gosh.
I am guilty of that. I'm understanding and learning more now that I'm working with police officers that it's not like TV. And so there's an expectation that you are reading case law. That you have to in order to be good at your job and to do your job well. So there's that expectation that that's not just something because, like, Detective Barber has an interest in case law. No, that's what all officers should be doing.
Well, that's what every officer should be doing.
Yeah.
Whether everybody does it or
right,
not.
Right.
That's on them. But then again, as we have to read it and understand it in order to enforce the laws, attorneys are reading it and understanding it in order to, fight back and try to create more loopholes and reasons why their client should be found not guilty.
Right.
So it's really like if you have a vested interest in making the city better, then this is a profession, this is a career, never stop learning. The day you stop learning is the day you should put in for retirement.
Okay. Well, that's good. I think this is a good place for us to take our first community break. And when we return, we will talk more with Detective Barber and get an idea of what his typical day looks like as a special investigations detective.
Are you considering a career in law enforcement? Sign on today as a Portsmouth police officer and receive up to $1,500 if you're already Virginia certified. We offer a $1,000 allowance for a bachelor's degree and a $500 allowance for an associate's degree on top of your base pay. Officers can also earn additional income on time spent in court and at community events. Visit our website at portsmouthpd.us for more information on how to apply.
Back with Detective Barber, and we were discussing the importance of always learning, continuous education, and particularly with case law, and how that just helps build officer confidence as they are working their cases. But Detective Barber, we would like to know, what does a typical day look like for a special investigations detective?
Honestly, I can't tell you because every day is going to be different.
Okay.
I get started 4 o'clock in the morning, sitting watching a location for just a vehicle or a person, trying to a location. I could start the day off at 8 o'clock in the morning with a cup of coffee, just going through reports. I could, it just changes every day. Like I could be getting a phone call at 8 o'clock at night saying, hey, they got somebody in custody that now has information about, narcotics or something like that they need to go question the person. So
what does a detective shift look like? Because I was asking you earlier off the podcast. Because you just said that you could start your day at 4 or you could start your day at 8. So what does a detective shift look like here at this department?
Just depends on, once again, where you work.
Okay.
Where you work. So, if you're working homicide, then they are all hours. They got to, adjust their schedule to whatever the heck's happening. Generally, we like to work days and nights in my building.
Okay.
So because there's different people move around daytime than there are nighttime. It will vary that just depending on what we're currently investigating.
Are you on the same 12-hour shift as other officers, or you guys have a shorter?
My wife knows not to expect me home at the normal time every time.
Oh, you have a longer shift than?
No, we're not on 12 hours,
Oh.
but I could be working 10 and a half hours. That turns into 13, turns into 16.
Got it.
I could be plan on working 8.5, 9 hours, one day, and then still end up working, 20 hours or whatever. It just depends on what happened with the case and evidence. And, if we do a search warrant and then we end up getting 4 or 5 guns and, ounces of narcotics and money, like all that has to be logged, all that has to be put into property and evidence and documented. If we end up hitting a pop-up spot, then we end up getting 13 guns and hundreds of pounds of marijuana or whatever, then that all has to be taken care of.
So can you tell us what is special investigations specifically?
We do narcotics. We investigate some gang members and stuff. We currently dealing with violent crimes, gun crimes and stuff. So we work hand in hand with our homicide. We get help out our fugitive apprehension unit guys too. So anything that doesn't fall underneath property crimes, that doesn't fall underneath specifically homicide and stuff, then
special investigations. So I had asked when I had interviewed detectives, the homicide detectives, I had asked them about, like, how do you know when you stop? So how do you know when is your day finished? Like, if you have a case, like, at what point are you like, I got to keep working this, or we're done for today and we can do this tomorrow? So
there's just some things that can wait, like stuff that's not going to go anywhere for a while. Some people are already preserved, or that you need to look at, or maybe it's in property and evidence that we just can't access it right now.
Got it.
We'll stop there. But if it's something that needs to be done right here and now, like, hey, we've got information that this is happening right now. Okay, then we'll go out and we got to get it taken care of.
Right. Okay.
So how we know when to stop? Normally Sarge will say, hey, we're done for the day. Go home, come back.
Okay.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Okay. Well, that makes it a little bit easier if you have that other person that's going to tell you, like, hey, we can stop right now. What are some of the biggest challenges you face in your role?
The biggest in my current role is really just, I would say, cooperation when it comes to gathering intelligence and cases against people. And I think that's really with policing in general is you got to get community cooperation and engagement in order to, to get drug dealers off the street, to get shooters off the street, to get robbers off the street. You need that community engagement, and then, just having that is, and not having that is what's going to make or break certain cases.
Okay, the interactions with the community. So how do you foster that? As a detective, are you always, you not have a beat per se,
Nope.
So you're not in the community all the time unless there's something going on. So how do you do that before work?
With that, I'm not walking a beat. People still see you. Got a badge and a gun. Talk to people. We're people. Everybody else is a person. You can just talk. A smile goes a long way.
Okay.
If I walked around with a frown on my face and just a scowl and look not approachable, I'm not projecting a sense of, hey, I want to meet that person. But if somebody looks at me, hello, how's it going? A simple hi, a wave or something. Even if they tell me, hey, forget you, and maybe not such a nice way. At least I extended the courtesy.
Okay. So there's challenges is, I think on the podcast, this has come up a bit about community engagement, because really, like you said, it makes or breaks the case, how much the community members are going to cooperate as witnesses or divulge information. Mm-hmm. But what do you find most rewarding as a detective or just as an officer of having a career in law enforcement?
I think one of the most rewarding things is proving that you're right in your it, like in your investigation.
Okay.
Like if I know that somebody was doing something, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
Right.
That comes to court and all that stuff. So if I can gather enough evidence and say, yes, this person was selling drugs and they're a danger to the community, and they've done this and done that, and I'm able to prove it, that's really cool. Even if it's not narcotics related, if it's a shooting or something else, I know I had a hunch about this person, and I know for a fact that it is because of X, Y, and Z that I've collected through an investigation. Fantastic. I think that is very rewarding to say I was right, the puzzle pieces fit, and now we can prove it.
Do you have a case that has been proven in court that is what you're describing?
Well,
Fits what you're describing?
well, kind of. I mean, there's a couple examples. Like there was this one where I was still working uniform patrol, and we had I remember I responded to a guy that said he was assaulted, and he said it was by a female. And he said he never been hit so hard in his entire life. He said the car full of females rolled up, started flirting with him, and he got hit out of nowhere. He said that man never hit him that hard. Next night, another citizen claimed that a car full of females rolled up, and they were talking with him, and then he got hit in the face with a hammer. I'm like, what the heck? Hold on a second. And he goes, man, I nearly knocked me out. I'm like, hold on. This other guy probably got hit with a hammer. The next night, same thing. Car full of females, hit somebody with a hammer, and then they shot a gun at him.
But they just kept escalating.
It just kept escalating, right? And, pattern of behavior escalation, So it was like, okay, now these guys are getting kind of crazy out here. So I'm thinking I got serial, people just out here for kicks, but now they're stepping it up, right? So the guy that said he had shots at him, on the ground there was some red paper, some like it was fireworks. They didn't shoot a gun at him; it was fireworks, firecrackers.
Okay.
Then another night goes by, and then I get a call at Norfolk General Hospital that somebody had been shot. They said they were shot in Portsmouth. I go there, I check the parking lot first, and I see the car, and the car's got bullet holes in it. I look in the back seat. There is a rubber mallet, like a masonry mallet type thing that you would tap like tiles and stuff in. There's also firecrackers on the back seat. And then I can see the holster of a gun underneath the passenger seat. So I say, okay, the guy knew he said he saw a gun, he thought that they shot at him, but it was firecrackers. I'm like, hey, these are going to be our people that have been running around doing this, and I bet you somebody got some get back on them. So go inside. There's a female. She is shot. Of course, they don't know what happened. It was two females and a guy that were there. They don't know what happened. I called Jonathan, I believe, at the time. He was the detective on that. So I think he was the sergeant. I said, hey, look, this is your car. These are going to be your folks that have been running around doing this. And so ended up linking them to a whole bunch of crimes and stuff that they had been committing. And sure enough, that was
who it was.
That was them.
Okay.
That was them.
Well, that would be that. I can see how that would be rewarding to you're noticing these details and then you're able to connect it, and that just seems like kind of cool that they pulled into the hospital and you see all of that on the back seat of the car. Yeah, that's.
It helped that the window was shattered, and I could just say, "Oh,
yes, that's awesome." How so you haven't you did at the beginning. You talked about a traumatic situation that happened earlier, but I would assume like over the years you've been a police officer since 2007, 2008.
2008 is when I started.
2008. How do you deal with the traumatic situations or the cases that no one would want to see?
Well, there's been a lot of them.
Right.
And you need to find somebody to listen. And I'm not saying a therapist
right.
or, none of that. If you just need somebody to talk to. And it's kind of funny because cops generally tend to gravitate toward cops and firefighters and stuff. And there's, it's called gallows humor, and dark humor or whatever. That's a way of people talking about things and getting things out. It's an uncomfortable situation to talk about, so people add humor to it.
Right.
But you just need somebody to talk to vent to. My wife, I've learned that, hey, she doesn't want to hear about all the gory details. I'll just say, hey, look, I had had a tough day, had this happen, and she'll say, "Do you want to talk about it?" Not really, maybe later. And then it takes me a little bit to process because I don't need to give her a secondary trauma of having her try to go through this.
Right.
So that is definitely a way, is just finding people that'll listen, and you got to get it out there, because if you don't, it's just gonna stay inside you and just keep rolling around. It's just gonna get bigger and bigger until you're just a mess.
Okay. So a few weeks ago, we talked about mental health and how the different resources that the department offers for officers and peer support groups and things like that, and wellness. We talked about wellness as well. So just being able to talk to somebody, find someone that you can talk to about the things that you've seen or how you feel about this is important. Today I was at the Real Time Crime Center, and we were looking at Flock, because Flock is all in the news. Locally, people are upset about Flock, the license plates readers. How do you use Flock? Has Flock been helpful as a detective in special investigation?
Absolutely.
Okay. In what way has it been helpful?
You can't put a cop on every corner.
Okay, right.
It is basically an observation of the public roadways, and what people don't seem to understand is, like, the plates are owned by the DMV. So reading your license plate is not an invasion of privacy. It's just saying this vehicle is at this location at this time. And that actual case was just settled in Norfolk recently that upheld Flock as that's exactly what it is. It's just an eye in that area at the time. It's the same as having an eyewitness there. It's not constant video recording. It's not a streaming thing. It's not following people. It's not GPS.
Right. I just learned today that it was just a camera taking pictures. I
That's
thought it was a video. I thought it was a video, like just a video. I thought the camera was a video camera.
Nope.
It's just a picture, and
it's not surreptitiously put there. It is shown. Yeah. Everybody knows where they are.
Right.
And so.
And then the information, I was told, gets deleted after 30 days. So
correct.
It's not like stored forever.
Correct, unless you actually request a download of it, then they'll send you a download, and
right.
Okay, now your stuff is preserved for your records.
Right. Okay. But so, and what other technology has helped? Because if special investigations, you're dealing with some gangs, you're dealing with narcotics. How does technology help you in those cases?
Well, I'll say this is probably going to go with what everybody else has said, but body cameras, they help and hurt.
Okay.
Body cameras are amazing. Now, I understand, advocates for saying police accountability, and I agree. Police need to be held accountable for everything that they do. If it was up to me, though, I think accountability in all aspects of careers and professions would be fantastic, and everybody should wear a body camera at that. If I have an elected official, you're having a meeting, you need to be wearing a body camera.
That's true. Okay.
Okay. Unless it's an invasion of like a HIPAA violation, doctors, when they're doing a procedure, you know what? Wear a body camera. Make sure you're not making mistakes.
Right.
But I think it's great because it actually gives the public kind of like the firsthand view of it, and what the officers were viewing. Now, there are issues with it because in stressful situations, you talked about, like how you deal with stuff. I also deal with, I teach officer involved shooting class and stuff too. I was involved in an incident back in 2016, but the things that the body camera do not capture, they don't capture tunnel vision. They don't capture auditory exclusion, where you're in a stressful situation, you have heightened, like adrenaline flow and all this stuff too. Your physiological, makeup is just basically going crazy right now. Like it may pick up on things that you didn't notice at the time. And so that's not always conveyed
in the body camera.
In the body camera.
Right.
And that part of body cameras too is that now that they're everywhere all the time, people, when they malfunction, when they get knocked off, when they don't work, people are automatically saying, well, what are you hiding? Why wasn't your body camera there?
Right.
Or what drives me nuts is if it goes to court and they say, well, it's not on your body camera, so we can't present it. Like, what are you talking about? My testimony was just as good before body cameras happened.
I didn't think about that.
Why isn't it good now? Because my camera's facing to the left and I saw it over here on my right because I turned my head and my camera's mounted on my chest and it didn't picture it.
Right.
How come that is not good enough? And I think that that is a complete disservice right now. So good because it can capture a lot of evidence. Very few cases that have gone to trial actually show body camera because normally the body camera footage is not to the defendant's best interest. And, so that's great. But then when people want to say, well, it wasn't on or, that you're trying to hide something, I think that is a disservice to, like what we do as a profession.
Right.
Honestly, I think when there's an incident happening, my first instinct is to stop the threat of whatever's happening. Let's say a guy's running down the street with a gun. I'm going to go after that person with the gun, and my first thought is to draw my gun out and give him orders, not to make sure my body camera is on and working in order to deal with this active threat.
Right. I don't think, like I said, most of us are getting our understanding of police work by TV or commentary from people. So I didn't even consider that.
Just saying, when it comes to prosecution, there have been comments made that, well, it's not a body camera, so we can't present that.
I wouldn't have thought that because you were there. So I didn't think that. But I think that, like you said, the body camera is not picking up on how you are reacting to that stressful situation. And a lot of people will have their opinions about it, but I know when I did the virtual, as well as some of the journalists who came in and did the virtual reality, they got to go through one of the modules. I know on the first time that I went through the module, I drew a weapon and I didn't intend to, and I shot somebody in a module because I just wasn't used to having that. I've never been in that type of situation before, and it happened so quick. And I was like, oh, can I do it again? But if it was real life, there is no do over. There's no do it again. So I understand that, and that's important that people realize that the body cameras, they can be helpful, but they don't show the complete picture. It's just video, like a video camera at the store doesn't show the complete picture. You have people who, if there are witnesses, you have people that are talking, who can share that information of what they saw, what happened from their perspective. So I think people need to realize this. This is a good time for our last community break, and when we return with Detective Barber, we're going to talk about what his future aspirations are, and if he has any advice for people who are interested in pursuing a career in law enforcement.
Are you considering a career in law enforcement? Sign on today as a Portsmouth police officer and receive up to $1,500 if you're already Virginia certified. We offer a $1,000 allowance for a bachelor's degree and a $500 allowance for an associate's degree on top of your base pay. Officers can also earn additional income on time spent in court and at community events. Visit our website at portsmouthpd.us for more information on how to apply.
So we're back with Detective Barber, and I wanted to ask you, you've had a long career in policing, but you're not at the age of like retiring from policing. Maybe you are, but I don't think you are. I'm at the place that you would have retired, but what are your future aspirations?
Well, when I first started, I had a couple set goals. Number one, complete the academy. Number two, get out of field training. Number three, work really hard and gain the respect of my peers.
Okay.
Number four, make rank. So I think I've done pretty well when it comes to everything else. So sergeant possibly in the future.
Okay.
I didn't take this last promotional test for certain reasons.
Okay.
But the next one that comes around, I think I'll go ahead and take it and try it again.
Well, I know you're respected among your peers because I hear your name come up often, and I know I just met you last week or maybe this past weekend. I'm in person, but your name has come up quite a bit. So
hopefully in a good
in a good way, yes. Because they respect you, and I've heard about Detective Barber. So you got your 3 out of 4 on your things, and then eventually you're gonna get that fourth one.
And then the fifth one will be have a nice retirement. So that's my set goals.
Yep. Have a nice retirement. What's some advice that you'd have for someone who's interested in a career in law enforcement? Say they're high school graduate, just freshly graduated. What should they do?
Stay out of trouble.
Okay.
No, it's I think in order to get into this career, you have to want to make the world a better place. And you genuinely have to believe that you're making a difference. Because people that just come in here for a steady paycheck with benefits and stuff, I think they're in it for the wrong reasons. Granted, it's good to have those things, but if you're not willing to try to change the world to make it a better place and make it the world that you would want your kids to grow up in, then I really think that you're doing yourself a disservice and the citizens. Just once again be that change that you want to see. So my advice is, be an example.
Okay.
Integrity is doing the right thing even though no one's looking. Live that in your life the same way that you're going to expect, another police officer to do. Like we make the news all the time when a police officer does something wrong. How many times do you see, like librarian arrested for DUI or, Smithfield plant worker, arrested for assault and battery, domestic assault and battery. Like you don't see that. Our profession is the only one where whether you were a cop or are a cop, that profession gets put in the newspaper if you do something wrong.
Right.
So make sure you don't make the newspaper.
That's Detective Barber's advice. Don't make the newspaper. No. But I think it's important that what you said, to do this job, you have to truly have a desire to make the world a better place. And so as a young person, you really need to sit with yourself and consider, is that something that you truly have a desire for? Because if you don't have that desire, you're not going to be the most effective cop or the most effective police officer. Because as a police officer, you said at the beginning, your job is to uphold the Constitution. It's to protect, to provide the protection and security of the community in which you work in. And so if you don't have that true desire to make the world a better place, there's no way that you're going to be able to do the work that you guys, it's dangerous work, it's hard work, it's important work. And I think we hold people in the community kind of have you guys holding to a higher standard because deep down we all know the work that you do is very important. But if you're not willing to do that, there's no way that you're going to make a difference in the community that you're serving, and it's not going to help out the other officers who are committed to doing that, who are committed to their work to do a good job.
Correct, and I'm not saying don't be human. Everybody's human. So the thing that gets me the most is when people say, well, how come this person, acted this way and this person acted this way, like comparing cops to cops, like
right,
whether it's arrests or situations. My upbringing is completely different than the next person's upbringing.
Right.
My experiences, what I've been through on the job is completely different than that other person's. What I ate for breakfast makes a difference to how I'm going to react to a situation, how much sleep I had, what, stress is at home, whether my wife and I had an argument, whether the kids, where my 2-year-old drew on the wall, like just something is like going to be different. So you can never compare what one officer did versus another officer.
Right.
But what you can do is try to be consistent with it and make sure that you have that drive and desire, in order to do the job. Like I remember, 2015, my friend, and he was my rookie at the time. We were driving and we saw just a glimmer of light coming from the woods off of Elliott Avenue. It's heading toward Missy Elliott Boulevard now, where the casino was.
Yes.
Ended up being an adult man in a car with a 6-year-old girl, and we ended up separating the girl from the guy, and found out that her grandmother then reported her missing. He had abducted her, and we don't know what he was going to do with her in the woods. We could assume a few things. Me as a man, me as a dad, certain things I want to do.
Right.
And it's a profession. You got to control yourself and conduct yourself accordingly.
Right.
So, how I handle the situation and how somebody else handles the situation is going to be different. Hopefully, everybody remembers the profession and we hold ourselves at a higher standard.
Right. Right. You've gotten some training to do that.
I saw your face. Yeah, that was.
No, because I was listening to like the scenario, but I know that I think it's important for people to remember that officers are human. And we, like you said, different backgrounds, different histories. So we aren't going to all act the same. But like you said as well, it's a profession. You all are professional. And you're doing what you're doing to keep the community safe. I just want to thank you, Detective Barber, for joining us on the podcast today. Do you have any final words? Anything else you would like to say?
No, just thanks for listening. Hopefully, this is some insightful stuff. I mean, I don't want to wax philosophics or anything, but I do like to talk to people and have very candid conversations with them.
Well, I've enjoyed the conversation, and
Thank you.
For the community, what I always say is that this is your city, this is our city, so let's work together to make it great. And if we don't work together, though, the city, we can't make it great. We have to work together. That means you have to have good interactions, community interactions with our police officers and our detectives so that we can make the community great.
Oh, yeah. For cops and new cops out there, too, or future cops also, just because you're a police officer doesn't mean you got to be this hard, stoic figure. You're
Right.
a person. Just be personable. Like one of my favorite quotes is from Van Wilder, which is not the best movie, but Ryan Reynolds is in it, and he says, "Don't take life too seriously. You'll never get out alive." So, you know what? It's true. Just live life, enjoy it. Take your profession seriously,
Right.
but just talk. Be neighbors, really.
I like that. Be neighbors. So remember that this is our city, this is your city, so let's work together to make it great.